What's happening, people? My name's DJ Graish, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to make a jungle track using Ableton Push. Now I'm using the Push 2, but if you happen to be using the Ableton Live Push 3, it's all the same steps, so you will still get some value from this tutorial. So let's get started. I'm just going to start off with the drums. So the first thing I'm going to do is just turn the tempo knob and get the tempo to a correct BPM for jungle. In this case I'm going to use 163. I'm going to make sure this first track is selected and then just press add a device. Now in here we've got all sorts of sounds, samples and instruments, etc., and I'm just going to choose the simpler. Now load that in. Now when you load a simpler, you are asked to click browse and load a sample, so I'll just click that and you go to where you've got your samples. In this case I've got them in a folder called production, so I'll just go down to jungle breaks and favorites, and that's where I'll find the legendary Amen Brother. So I've just loaded that in. Now if we press device, we'll see the simpler there and we'll see the waveform of the Amen break. Now obviously at the beginning of this we've got a trumpet and we don't want that, so I'm just going to bring the start point of the sample right in and just focus on the last two bars of the sample, and obviously zoom in right in just to make sure that it's accurate and make sure the endpoint is accurate. Now when I press one of these pads, you'll hear the sample there. Now it's not warped yet, so what you need to do is go to simpler here and click on, first of all I'm going to click on crop. Now that takes off that first couple of bars with the trumpet sound and everything, and we've just got the last two bars of the Amen break that I wanted to work with. And then if you press this warp to 2 bars, or warp as 2 bars, that will warp it and it should now be to the correct tempo for the project, which in our case is 163. Now this last control here, you can put that to slicing, and then here where it says sliced by transient you can choose beat, and then I like to choose 1/8 of a note. Now we've got the slices, we've got the different slices of the Amen break on these pads down here. So some of them, they might not be the most accurate slices, so you can go through and edit the start and end point. Now what I like to do here is press this convert button and then convert it to a drum rack. And now it's a similar view, but it's sort of zoomed in on each slice, and you can see there is a start and end control for each one. And then what I do is just go through each slice, and I'm looking visually, but I'm also listening out for any slice that happens to have a sort of inaccurate start or end point. And in this case, you can see at the end there, at the end of the slice, it's sort of bringing in the next kick, and you don't want that. So you just turn this end control just a little bit, take it to the left, and now it sounds a lot cleaner at the end of the slice. So we just go through, there's 16 of them, so we just go through making sure that all the start and end points are bang on, so you don't hear any weird clicking when it's playing the slices. Now with these ones that are shuffles, you might notice that it's starting a bit early. I like to leave it like that, you know, and the reason is because that's sort of the swing of the break. So imagine if I'm putting all my MIDI notes directly on the grid, but there's this little gap here, it means that these shuffles will come slightly late and just give it that groove, you know. There's another prime example, you see. It's bringing in the kick at the end of the slice, and if I press it, you can hear it's not accurate. So we just give that a little turn to the left, and now sounds a lot cleaner. Now this one, I am going to tidy up the start point and make sure we get the whole kick. And that one, tidy up the end. This one, I'm going to tidy up the beginning. All right. Now that we've got our breaks sliced, it's time for us to enter the step sequencer. In order to use the step sequencer, we're going to need a MIDI clip. And the way how you create one is, first of all, you need to choose a length of the MIDI clip by holding down fixed length. Now you've got different options for 1 bar, 2 bars, 4 bars, etc. I'm going to leave it on 2 bars. And I like to just make sure that this fixed length is turned on, so you'll see it flashing. And then when you press the record button, now you should see that red light start shooting across the pads, and that means it's recording and you're in the step sequencer. So if I press clip up here, you're going to see the clip, and obviously it's attempting to record, but there's no notes yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn recording off again, and you should see that the light shooting across turns green. I'm just going to stop this. Now we've got our 16 slices down here. So the way it works is each row has 8 steps, and 2 rows represents a full bar. So you've got 16 steps per bar. And what you do is you just select each one of your slices from down here and then put it on a step. If you remember from before, we sliced the break to 1/8 notes, but the step sequencer is in 1/16. So for that reason, we need to miss out one each time. So I put the first slice there, and I'm going to miss out one and put the second slice there. Actually, instead of just going in order, I'm going to go back to the snare and put the snare there, and then these shuffles again. So now you get this pattern. Alright, and then we'll go back to the kick. And then I might use that crash. See how that sounds. Alright, so what I'll do is I'll just put in a kick snare, and then the last one I'm just going to put it as a shuffle. So now it sounds like this. Alright, so that's how you can slice a break with the push. Now I'm going to show you again, but this time I'm going to go a bit quicker so you can see how long it really takes, you know. So first of all, we'll click this next MIDI track, add a device. We're going to go to Instruments and Simpler, load in the Simpler, and then it'll say click Browse to load your sample. You go to where your samples are. I've got them in this folder called Production, and I'll just go down to Jungle Breaks and then choose a different break. So it's going to be the Hot Pants break this time. Now I'll just go into Device, and in this case I don't need to crop it, but I am going to warp it as 2 bars. Then with the mode here, I'll just put that to slicing. We'll go to beat, we'll go to 1/8, and then in this case I'm going to convert it to a drum rack. Now I just need to go through and have a listen to each one of my slices, make sure the start and end points are all tidy. Like that one's a bit dirty at the end. That one's dirty. Alright, now that one's sliced as well. All we do is hold down fixed length, make sure we're on 2 bars, press the record button, which creates a clip. Go into clip so you see it. And what we can do is actually we can just solo the Hot Pants break for a second by just pressing it and then pressing solo here. Now we're back to the step sequencer, so we can just put in our slices and remember to miss out 1 step each time. Alright, how's this sounding? Alright, so let's unsolo the hot pants break. And one last thing is, if you go into this mixer and you've got the different volumes for each one, you can just turn one down like that. So now it's time to add a bass line, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to add a track here, go to MIDI track, and we're going to choose simpler again, instruments and simpler. Just choose that, load it in. It's going to say press browse to load a sample, and I'm going to go to user files, and I'm going to go to where I've got my 808 samples. So I like to use this Super Dope. However, this sample isn't in perfect tune. So what I usually do is go to global, transpose it to 6. Also change the detune to 46. Alright. So down here there's a button that says scale, and if you click that, it gives you all of the different notes and all the different scales you can use with them. So what I'm going to do is just press F and then change this to minor. Now the 64 pads down here have, you can see there's white pads and there's blue pads. Now the blue pad is the root note, so in this case, since I've just put it onto F minor, this will be an F. This is an F, okay? So before we go any further, I'm just going to go back to the device so we can see our simpler here with the 808. And then I'm just going to go to add device. And I'm going to go to audio effects. And I'm just going to choose drive and color saturator. When it comes to the saturator, it's always a good idea to match the drive with the output. So if you can see here, the first control and the last control are the drive and output, and what you can do is just turn one clockwise as you turn the other one anti-clockwise, which is cool. And just try and match them, you know. So I've turned it up by 13 dB, turn it down by 13 dB, and then since it's matched, it should be roughly the same volume as it was before, but just a bit dirtier. Before I put in the bass line, I usually like to have some kind of chords or some sort of melody in place, which is going to determine the key of the tune, you know? So I'm just going to look for a pad sound. So what I'll do is I'll just go to add track and a MIDI track. And then I just want to go to sounds, pad, and have a look for a pad that sounds good. Like, for example, this one, chord specific. All right. So I'm just going to turn the volume of it down a bit. And it's so cool that you've got these different, the filter cut off and the attack and everything just right here, and you can even automate some of these to give it some more movement. let me just record in these 2 notes. So I'm just going to hold fixed length, put it on 4 bars and press record. And if we go to the clip, you can see it there. I'm literally just going to put in 2 notes. Alright, so now that we've got those there, we can just go back to the device and perhaps record in some of that automation. So I've just clicked on automate down here. Now I'm just going to press record and just turn some of these. So you may have noticed that the first note isn't exactly coming in when it's supposed to, and I suspect that it's a little bit early. So all I need to do is go into the step sequencer by pressing clip and layout. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quantize it. Right, let's try it now. Alright, now that we have our drums and our pad, it's time for me to finally put in that bass line. So I'm just going to go back to the 808 and let's have a listen what we've got so far. Alright. Right, so I think I'm going to need a 4-bar loop, so I'll just hold down fixed length, 4 bars, and then press record. And I'll press clip so you can actually see that there. And I'll just wait for the next time for it to loop around again. Now, with the quantize, what you need to do is hold down quantize to see some more options. And you see how it's on 16th? I'll probably want it on an 1/8 or maybe even a 1/4. So let's try it like that. So just let go and then press quantize again. Now let's listen to it. And then undo. Let's have a listen. So in my opinion, quantized, it sounded too robotic, and not quantized, it sounded too loose. So what do we need to do then? Hold down quantize, and then where it says quantize amount, just put it down to 50%. That way when I press it, it'll make it towards the grid, but not directly on the grid. So let me press it again, and let's try. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. If you enjoyed this and you want to see more Ableton Live push content, just let me know in the comments and I'll be sure to make more tutorials like this one. If you want to learn how to make jungle using Ableton Live without a controller, click this video here. And if you want to learn how to make old school rave music, check out this one. I'm DJ Graish. Thank you so much for joining me and I'll see you in the next video.